Thanks for tuning into No Wine in No Time. I'm your host Dave, and today we're going to get in the car, we're going to head north on the 101 out of San Francisco and head to the AVA, or American Viticultural Area of Sonoma County. Now this is an area that's blessed with incredible diversity, and what I mean by that is that the soil types are different, the climate is different, and the elevation is different when you go north, south, east, and west. And this allows Sonoma to really leverage growing different grapes in different areas and excelling at all of them. So this is an area that has had struggles, triumphs, and all of those were building blocks to get to the point where they are today. Well, the first grapes were planted in Sonoma County in 1812. And these were planted by Russian immigrants, and those were used mainly just to serve the people of the community. Then in 1857, a gentleman by the name of Count Augustin Haratsi, he was a Hungarian nobleman, and he moved here from Wisconsin, and he decided to plant vineyards on slopes. This was a practice that they had done in Europe and had been quite successful, and he knew that the best grapes would be grown on slopes. So he practiced that in Sonoma. So effective was he in springboarding California viticulture that today Haratsi is known as the father of California viticulture. So when we look at the 1920s, as things started to progress, we had approximately 22,000 acres under vine at that point and 256 different individual wineries. Then Prohibition happened, and at that point the amount of people growing grapes dropped from 256 all the way down to less than 50. Well, that began to rebound in the time after Prohibition, and by the time we hit 1984 there was approximately 250,000 tons of grapes being produced in that particular area, and grapes surpassed fruit, grain, and dairy as the #1 crop in Sonoma County. And today, grapes, growing grapes, vitification, the wine industry accounts for 1 in 4 jobs in that particular area. So that's absolutely fantastic, and that's kind of, you kind of stub your toe, you keep going, you stub your toe, you keep going. You learn from your mistakes and you build on them. And that's what ends up molding an exceptional wine community. So staying true to Sonoma County's roots, it's interesting that unlike Napa, which when we always think about California we think Napa and Sonoma, Sonoma, the vineyards today are still owned 85% by families. And that really continues that tradition that Haratsi put into place, and allows you to focus on the craft and the quality. I know business is a part of it, but more on the craft and the quality than the dollars and cents. And that's absolutely fantastic. That's one of the things that draws me to Sonoma County. So today when we look at Sonoma, there are 15 different AVAs and sub-AVAs. So Sonoma County is the high-level AVA. Then we have some other high-level AVAs, but I want to draw your attention to a few because based on that diversity that we talked about when we opened the show, that diversity is important because it allows grapes to be grown at an extremely high level. So the first one I want to talk about is Carneros. Now Carneros is at the southern reaches of Sonoma County, and it actually shares some territory with Napa. Now in Carneros we have a thing called the Petaluma Gap, which pumps in kind of cooler maritime air into that area, and it kind of moderates the climate and allows them to focus on cooler weather grapes, things like Pinot Noir, things like Chardonnay, and they do an exceptional job at that. Now the second AVA I wanted to talk about was the Russian River Valley. We talked about Russians being the first immigrants to plant grapes in this area, and that tradition you can see all over. And Russian River Valley, that river was actually named for the people who came there and first cultivated grapes. Now in the Russian River Valley, we have some slopes, and we plant on the areas that face southeast in that particular river valley. And in the Russian River, we sometimes get some fog that helps to moderate the climate a bit. And it also is an area that focuses on exceptional Pinot Noir and Chardonnay. Now, when we get to some of the warmer weather areas, things like Dry Creek Valley, Knights Valley, Alexander Valley, these are areas that are a bit hotter, a bit higher in elevation, and these are ones that grow some of your warmer weather grapes, things like Zinfandel, Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, some of your French or Italian type of varietals that need a little bit more heat. So those are grown in those particular areas. So let's go ahead and taste a Sonoma County wine, and this one really is a potpourri. So this is from a winemaker by the name of Ravenswood, and this is their Besieged Red Blend. Now, Besieged Red Blend is a blend of Petit Syrah, Carignan, Zinfandel, Syrah, Alicante Bousquet, Barbera, and Mourvedre. So kind of everything but the kitchen sink. The reason why we do make red blends, or white blends for that matter, is it kind of knocks some of the rough edges off of each of those individual varietals, and the overall blend is a bit more harmonious. So let's take a look and see what we think. So this is the wine that has a little bit of transparency. It's certainly dark purple in color with a little bit of garnet ruby around the edges. A very pretty wine, nice and clear. If we go ahead and swirl it to liberate the aromas, what jumps out of the glass is a lot of spices. I get things like baking spices, maybe cinnamon, nutmeg, a little bit of plum, some strawberry, cherry, and a little bit of oak in the background. This tells me this is a fairly complex wine, and we think about putting 7 different grapes into a wine, we would expect some significant complexity. Let's go ahead and taste the wine. Ravenswood Besieged rolls across the palate, and its entry gives you a lot of beautiful sweeter fruits, things like cherries, strawberries, maybe a little bit of plum, but more on the pruny side than the crisp side of a plum. Mid-palate, we have tremendous acidity and good balance on this particular wine. This is a wine that gets a little bit of lift mid-palate, and then the spices start to come in, almost things like cardamom, licorice, nutmeg. All of those are rolling on the mid-palate. On the back side of the palate, we feel a grip of tannin, which we would get from some of these grapes like Carignan, certainly Mourvedre. These are thicker skinned, more tannic grapes. And on the back side, we feel the influence of the oak. We get a nice oaky or caramel type persona, really taking the palate on quite a bit of a ride. So this is a pretty good example at a reasonably cost red blend from Sonoma County, and I'm going to enjoy a little bit more of this Besieged. So that's all the time we have for today. Thanks for tuning in, and please join me next time, because soon you'll know wine in no time.